Hello, everyone. You are in for a treat today. I am with Bryan Hurlman today. Yes, the great Bryan Hurlman. He's been in the Cutco business since 2007, nine-time national champion in the business, responsible for over $36 million in sales. And the guy is just winding down as we're recording here. A great year in 2020. Among the greatest performances we have ever seen in the company. Bryan competes in 5 competitive categories as a manager in Vector with his office and his division. And in those 5 categories, he is 10th, second, and first. He will win 1 silver cup for sure, with 3 others coming down to the wire as the year winds down. The guy, if you want to hear his full story, episode 65 is one of the most popular episodes in the history of the podcast. That'll give you Bryan's Vector story. Today, we're going to talk about 2020. We're going to talk about the future. We're going to get into the mind and heart of Bryan Hurlman. Welcome, Bryan, to the podcast.
What's up, Dan? Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for making time once again to be able to share yourself with our audience. I'm really excited about this. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Me too, man. I'm honored.
All right. Well, look, this was an amazing year for you in 2020. What were some of your goals at the outset of the year?
I mean, it's kind of as we sit here in December 18th, it's kind of crazy that we're defining the year of 2020 as a great year. I don't know if you would have used that phrasing in, early March, that anyone would have expected that's what we're talking about as far as our outcomes for this year. But man, what a crazy year, dude.
Mm-hmm.
As we started the year, when I was in training, when I was running training, when I was speaking to the division, I was talking about doing, $6 to $6.5 million. And I was respecting that number. I've been around a long time. I watch those Silver Cup reports. I know what a top division performance looks like. I know how many divisions do over $5 million in a normal year, let alone 6. And so I had a healthy amount of respect for that number. And I felt like going into the year, that was going to be a challenge for us. And, but that's what we were going after, $6 to $6.5 million. And it's crazy that, we sit here now, we're just under 7 million. And this week will get us over, and it's just nuts, man. Crazy.
Yeah. And your office crushing it as well. Well over $1 million in new business sales.
Yep.
In your office. Your pilot development category, you basically lapped the field. I think you're double number 2 in that category. So a lot of success that's come out of your office as well. I mean, it's huge. I mean, what an amazing year. How did your goals change, or did they change when the pandemic struck in March?
Yeah. Whoa. I talked about this a little bit at SLC this year when I spoke to the field, but I remember getting back, and a couple, 3-4 days after we were back, they shut down the borders. And I remember at first, Dan, I was freaking out, dude. I didn't know what the hell we were going to do. I remember there were a couple points in time. I had a couple, dare I say, frantic conversations with my region manager. And just thinking about how are we going to respond to this? Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to email all these people, a prospectus and a training manual? Like, what the hell are we going to do? And then, maybe a day after I had one of these conversations with Scott Dennis, I saw Drew post the YouTube link in our DVM Facebook group of like, hey, here's what Wes and I made. Here's what we're doing. And I shit you not, Dan, I watched maybe 90 seconds of it. I fast forward into like but I fast forward to where we were going, like what he was doing and showing us. I watched that for about 90 seconds. And I knew that this was the direction that we were heading in. And, call it gut, call it instinct, call it decisiveness. I just felt like this was the direction that I was going to take our division in. And I remember telling Scott, this is what I'm going to do for sure. And I think it's probably worth us discussing this at the DVM table. And, ultimately our entire region, shifted in that direction. But man, so big shout out to Drew Frank and Wes Frank. Thank you guys so much for the work that you put into my Vector demo and your Cutco demo. I don't know what we would have done without that, but I remember as pandemic struck, we were starting to work through, virtual interviews and virtual training. And I remember our first couple, I remember my first couple virtual trainings. I remember the first one was, I felt like it was so shitty. I got home and I told Alexandra, I told my wife, I was like, I'm done. All of my training prowess comes from being able to connect with people in person and use my charisma. And my hands are tied behind my back, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I remember this so distinctly. And then I ran another one, and it was a little bit better. And then I had a keynote, and I ran another one, and it got a little bit better. And I started thinking, okay, all right, we can do this. We can do this. And what eventually happened, what gave me the confidence, I had a training launch that, we launched a handful of kids, and they went out and they did, I don't know, 10 or 15K first weekend. It wasn't a huge launch. This was in April. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this works. Like this works.
They're actually selling.
It clicked. And this was in like early April. And then by mid to late April, we were cranking summer style. I mean, it was insane.
Right.
And at that point, I definitely knew that we had the potential for something special based on the kind of recruiting response we were getting. We had hired a bunch of SMR. We had hired a bunch of social media recruiting assistants, and we had responses blowing up. And I mean, it was insane from a recruiting standpoint. And I knew that I could get, if the recruiting's happening like that, I can get the sales to translate. And so we decided that, as a DVM, I was going to run training for the division, for all the branches and for the new DMs. And I went into figure it out mode. I remember, getting calls with Dane Esmagard and asking what he was doing in training with Ketchum and Gamboa, what they were doing every week. It was like after the day finished, I probably spent another 30, 60, 90 minutes or more, debriefing and spitballing with one of the other top trainers in the company. And, through that, I think we were all able to kind of craft what we felt like was the best practice for what we were going to, the direction that we were going to go in. And, being able to take a lot of ownership over the facilitating the training seminar for all the, essentially, maybe call it 70% of the reps in the division, we saw a great productivity increase.
Right.
And I could tell going into the summer that we had the potential to do something big. So I started thinking, okay, what can we do? What can we do for the summer? And I started thinking about, okay, could we crack $4 million for the summer? So as April was emerging, I was thinking, okay, can we figure out a way to do 4 million plus for the summertime? And, I wasn't sure what that was going to equate to for the rest of the year, because new business was really up and FSM business was stagnant or down. And so I didn't really know what the net increase was going to look like. I just knew that we were going to swing for the fences and try to take advantage of the upside that I saw. And, that's what we did.
Yeah. Awesome. What, when you first called Scott and talked to Scott about things, what was his mindset? Scott's
so the yin to my yang. I have a feeling that like he had to have been freaking out as much as I was. He had to have been. Maybe not, but in my head, like I'm thinking there's no way that he wasn't freaking out as much as I was. But when I called him freaking out, he was the voice of reason, dude. He was like, "We've got this." It was so no big deal. It was like, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have some challenges, but we're gonna figure this thing out. We've got this, and it was confidence inspiring. I remember getting off those calls, and I was still after some of these calls still freaking out, but the fact that Scott wasn't gave me enough confidence to say, okay, well, let's see what we can throw to the wall and let's see what sticks. If Scott's feeling confident, then I'm going to take his lead.
Yeah. Well, I have so much admiration for the way that Scott and your whole team in the Eastern region handled the early days of this and crushed it this summer. You described thinking about, could you get to 4 million for the summer? You finished up at 4.274 million for the summer. That was number one. Jeff Gamboa's division was number 2 for the summer. Larry Manley's division was number 3 for the summer. And Trey Ketchum's division was number 4 for the summer. I mean, that's just crazy right there. And I know that's due in large part to Scott's leadership and to the influence of people like you who drove it forward. What was the hardest thing about it? Like as you went through the pivots, what was the hardest thing?
Well, initially, just pivoting to the virtual interview. We had pre's and we had posts and we had, a 60-minute group, and just that dynamic changed a lot. Like our interview dynamic, it wasn't just like, okay, well, we're going to run the interview, but now we're going to do it virtually. It wasn't plug and play like that. It couldn't be. We weren't going to be able to hold people's attention like that. We weren't going to be able to, there was no scale of, so Dan, I guess the short answer was much of what I felt like the challenges were early on, and even the challenges we experienced during the summer, our bottlenecks were around scalability of the retention piece. Like we were able to scale the recruiting systems. We were ready for that. We were ready to scale that, but we weren't as ready to scale the retention and the rep development system. So we left it, as well as we did. Holy shit, we left so much on the table. And that's why I'm so fired up about 2021, because last summer we were just throwing shit to the wall to see what was going to stick. This summer we know what we at least have some direction. We know what we're doing. This is version 2.0 with some experience behind us. I just remember those challenges being scalability of the recruiting, scalability of the rep management. I remember also being frustrated with my onboard percentage, right? So the people that are listening to the podcast that are familiar with our model, you have a day 1 of training, a day 2 of training. There's some attrition through that process, and then you have the onboard. Well, I was experiencing more drop off than I had ever experienced in person in the virtual environment. And I just attested that, Dan, to the fact that with less barriers of entry of driving to an office for an interview and driving to the office for a training, I felt like we were probably scooping up some applicants, and we were having some people show up to the training seminar that may not have showed up in a different environment, but because it was like, well, shit, I'm just sitting in my room, I'll give this a shot. So I was kind of frustrated with my onboard percentage, and that's one of the things I've been really focused on honing in on over the last 4 to 5 months post summer, getting that back to the type of percentage that we would see when we were in person. But much of the bottleneck, much of the challenges were in the scalability of retaining, 150, 200 people, and only having initially, we only had 6-7 people on the management team, and so we weren't we were ready to scale the recruiting. We weren't ready to scale the retention piece.
Yeah. What's one solution you feel you found as you went along that's going to help you with that in 2021?
Well, I think it's just empowered delegation, right? I think many times, we have an idea as leaders and managers of what kind of skill level someone needs to be at, or XYZ things that need to have happened before this person gets a shot. But the reality is, if uh, if we're in a scenario where this person isn't well trained but they're needed, well, we would utilize them, right? And I decided to stop going from a place of, am I only going to empower my leaders and delegate to people when I feel like they've reached this benchmark and here it is, instead of just being like, well, we need the help. This is a great person. They're not nearly as trained or skilled as I would like them to be. And not a but, and I trust them, and I'm sure they can do better than us one person trying to manage 50 people. So for me, it's empowered delegation, and for us in our organization, we're gonna get people into a pod leader, a assistant manager, intern, into, just call it a shepherding role early, where they're helping us with a day 1 PC, they're helping us with a day 2 PC, they're helping us with a day 4 or a day 11 PC, and we just have some human connection touch points where it doesn't have to feel like, okay, cool, I'm done now the next one, okay, you're off, now the next one, okay, I'm done with you, now the next one, where you can actually spend some time with people. It's funny, I think sometimes, I was sharing this with my management team when we had a TLA this week. I said, let's say you're a branch manager and you have a kid who's at, 5K, 6K, and they've only been on the job for a week or two, and you're onboarding a training of 20. Right. That's a good onboard for a branch. And if you have an onboard of 20, you're not going to effectively PC 20 people in 60 or 90 minutes. You're not effectively going to PC 20 people on a Sunday or a Wednesday or whatever day you might meet one-on-one with reps. Right. So, what's funny? I think what we're afraid of is, oh, well, this person's only at 5 or 6K. This person's inexperienced. So, maybe some tough situations that they may encounter, they're not going to react or respond as well to those things. Let's say the rep has a fear, or they have something that they're really uncomfortable with. Well, I'm going to be way better at handling that kind of conversation. And what I was sharing with my managers is, you would be how surprised how much better that rep at 5 or 6K might be at having that conversation, because it's just full of authenticity. Right? It's full of personal experiences. This person was literally in their shoes 1-2 weeks ago. And just the fact that they have that kind of proximity in their start time can allow that person to maybe handle some of these concerns or fears better than you might be able to as a manager. So empowered delegation and for us, we want to make sure that that we're not creating people who feel this need to hold autonomy so tight to things that they have no ability to trust and to empower other people.
Awesome. I love that answer, Bryan. It's such a great idea about how to be able to develop a big team and create opportunities for other people. So, and when it's done right, delegation, there's an art to it. And when it's done right, it can really be an amazing tool for development. Tell us about some of your high points from the year.
Yeah, what a great year, man. It's so ironic that we're talking about 2020. I almost feel bad, dude. Like, you talk to people outside of our company and they're asking you like, hey, how are things going? I feel like I have to I need to mute myself. And I'm like, oh, they're going pretty good, I guess. And they're like, oh, really? What's it? Especially people that used to work with us, or people just in completely different industries. I'm like, oh, we're up 60% in sales revenue organizationally. They're like, what? so so it's fun to be able to share my enthusiasm for the year. Now, let me also maybe start by prefacing this. I feel I would feel remiss if I didn't. This was a fucking hard year for people.
Mm-hmm.
This was a fucking hard year for me. You know, like early quarantine, and like I'm super extroverted, and not being able to go to concerts or, you know, restaurants and see people and get my people together and be in group. Man, that was so hard. And that beginning of quarantine was really challenging. I think it was really hard for a lot of people. I think it continues to be challenging for a lot of people. And I want to recognize that first. And, you know, had I not been intentional about deciding that I was going to make this, you know, a great story, I don't know if we would have. But there was a point in time where, you know, Alexandra and I, you know, you get past the Netflix stage of thinking this thing is going to last 2 or 3 weeks. We'll chill out like it's a snow day, you know, and do nothing, and then you realize, holy shit, this looks like it's going to be you know, a little bit longer than 2 weeks. You know, it was a tough year for a lot of people. It was a tough year for us, but it was it was a great year. High points, I would say, the first was watching my brother get married last weekend. So my brother Chris married his fiance Shannon, and that was it was beautiful and really fun. And you know, I'm a proud big brother, and it's cool that you know, for a long time, I think it's tough, right? Being a younger brother of you know, a sibling in general of a top performer in anything, right? And you know, it's cool that my brother and I are at this stage in our relationship where we're equals, and it's not this. We don't have this dichotomy of an older brother, younger brother relationship. We're just brothers, and we're each other's biggest fans, and it was fun being his best man. I would say that was definitely a high point. I would say another high point was a couple days before the arrival of my second niece. My sister gave birth literally 20 maybe 48 hours before Chris's wedding. So, you know, twin things. So just a crazy coincidence that my sister was due like 2 days before my brother's wedding. So, and then we also in June got a chance to celebrate my niece's first birthday, and my brother came up, and Alexandra and I came down, my mom came up, and that was really special. My wife and I celebrating our second anniversary, buying our first home.
Mm-hmm.
That was fucking stressful, but also really, really fun. And that was that, you know, decorating the house and buying furniture and finally feeling like we're settled in. That was a high point. You know, and then watching our division, especially my pillar district managers, just not just survive through this thing or just, you know, grow a little bit, but just really thrive. Joseph and Andy both over $1 million. Zach experiencing big growth again this year. Kai Daniels, an enormous turnaround from 2019 to 2020. You know, watching Brendan Slocum double in new business from his branch summer to his new DM summer, $150,000 branch average. I take a lot of pride in that, man. You know, like, I think that's really where the barometer of, you know, your performance as a division manager is most felt, is what happens with the performance of this branch class. That was your training. That was 8 months of my time as a division manager. I mean, instead of being a 2-day training seminar, that's an 8-month training seminar. And the way that they perform is a testament, I think, to the way that we prepare and shepherd our people. And just watching that branch team do the damage that they did was really fun. And it's crazy. Dan, I know these are big words, but I mean, our branch team this summer is even better than it was last summer. They're gonna, I think we could make a run at something like 175 or a 200K branch average in our division this year. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And I think this is part of what I want to do, is kind of start us to change the way that we see, you know, what is a good performance. And
Right.
from the rep standpoint to the branch standpoint to the district standpoint. It's really cool to have, spoken these standards and this type of performance into existence, and watching these guys elevate, and watching, especially the big three, Andy Noggle, Zach Miller, Joseph Koss, watching Kai and Brendan grow like they have. I mean, we really have the makings of just a wrecking team with this DM class and our current DM lineup. So
Yeah.
2020 was fun because it was a chance for us to, to let what we've been building over the last 2 years finally get a chance to shine. So a lot of high points.
Yeah. Well, a team is a reflection of the leader. And, when you think about the standards being established and sort of recalibrating what it means to do well as a branch or to do well as a DM, the way that what you're about, Bryan, is being a top performer. I mean, you said this in the first podcast episode. If you're going to take something seriously, you're going to be a top performer. And I feel like that's carried down to your people. And that's why Virginia is doing so well right now.
Well, I really appreciate that, Dan. Thanks.
Yeah. I want to get into your head a little bit and find out what makes Bryan Hurlman tick. Like what is it that motivates you?
Man. Part of it's my upbringing. We talked about this in the first podcast. I didn't grow up with much. And, my mom worked really hard. My parents worked really hard to provide what we had, and we didn't have a lot, and so I think that's part of the chip on my shoulder. My dad was unemployed for a long time, and I watched my mom support a family of 5 on a teacher's salary while also being involved in all of our shit. Like, she was the Boy Scout mom and took us to soccer practice and involved in PTA and did it all. And I think that's probably part of the chip on my shoulder. I think now it's moved past competition, prove myself to, be remembered, and how am I going to be remembered? I had a coach of mine recently give me a pretty sombering journal exercise, and he asked me to journal my own eulogy. And I'm not sure if you've ever done something like that before yourself, Dan, but it's a sobering fucking thing. And, I have done a lot of really great things in my vocation and in my career. And if that was the only thing that people talked about at my eulogy, that would be a massive failure of my, fulfillment of my potential and the way that I want to be remembered. Yes, I want to be remembered as a dynamic entrepreneur, a trainer and a leader of people, a molder of minds. And I want to be known for, my the values and the things that matter a lot more than my accomplishments. I want to, I'm excited about being a dad one day, and I'm excited about building a family, and I'm excited about, the kind of impact that I'm going to make in the community that I'm a part of. And I just, for me, I want to make sure that I'm reaching the full potential of what I was given,
Right.
And
right.
And I like to have a lot of fun and compete, and so that part's fun, and that part, is a good day-to-day driver. But
Yeah.
long term, the legacy is much more important.
Yeah. I I've had a chance to give a eulogy, and in most notable one for me was from my own dad. And my dad moved to the United States from Europe with nothing. Literally had 3 suitcases, wife and little daughter in tow, when they came to United States. And he built a successful business, built a successful life. We were able to live in a really nice area by the time I was 9 years old. I got to go to private schools my whole life. My dad's company, one of our cousins became a partner. He built a great life with a great family, lived in a great area. His kids got to go to private schools their whole lives. And another partner jumped in on that and had a great family and great life. And there were so many of us who were in that church that day, that really, really, um, had what we had because my dad and what he did, his work ethic, and the efforts that he made. And I remember referencing a line that I heard in the movie Saving Private Ryan, where the character that Tom Hanks plays is dying on a bridge. They've gone into enemy lines and they've gotten Private Ryan out to save him. And he looks at Private Ryan and he says, "Earn it." Like, look, I'm about to give up my life for you. Go fucking do something with this, right? Live a great life, make an impact. And I just remember that moment in that movie and relating that in my dad's eulogy to the group in the church, that, hey, the people that have gone before us have done so much for us. And I respect that you have this desire to, like, be more than just your achievements in Vector, but to impact your community and to have these values that carry on to other people and raise however many awesome kids. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. My hope is that my impact outside of Vector can be felt even more dramatically than the impact that I've had inside of Vector.
Oh, that's a great summary, of that question of what motivates you. I want to ask you about, you've won 9 Silver Cups in Vector before 2020. Um, how does it feel to you when you win at something?
Oh, it's fucking awesome, dude. Um, I'm super competitive. So I love winning. Love it. I'll tell you though, I dislike losing a whole hell of a lot more than I enjoy winning.
Hmm.
So for me, it's not even as much about winning, because that feels great, as much as it is, I don't want to lose. For me, it's way more about not losing than it is about winning. And, dude, part of that, you have early childhood experiences, right? I remember I was on a basketball team that we lost like every game but won the whole season. And that seriously was a defining moment, because I tried to everyone sucked so bad on the team that I tried to quit, and my dad wouldn't let me. He's like, you can't just quit because other people aren't very good and your team sucks. And I remember also thinking, this is terrible, this feeling of losing. And uh so for me, it's a lot more about not losing than it is winning. And also at the stage I'm at now with, I'm really, these division silver cups, man, are the ones that for me are the coolest, and the ones that I want to win so badly, because it's a testament to the fact that, it's not just your pilot. There are a lot of people that are impacted by, an organization. There are a lot of people that play roles. And, for me, I want that I want that accomplishment because I want them to feel that feeling. And I want, because I also think that's just, it's a great representation of, the way that this team has stepped up and the way that this team has performed. And so for me, it would be really cool to just watch these guys celebrate, and I know what it means to them. So we're going after it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I feel the need to redirect one concept that you just said, because, the to define anything about what you and or your team has done in 2020 as losing it's not fair. It's not fair. You guys have fucking crushed it all year long.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I agree. I've told the team that we don't need this to define us. This doesn't define our year, but it'd be nice for us to have when we've been fighting for it this hard.
Yeah, I mean, I referenced earlier you're 10th in one competitive category for the year that you compete in, which is the office total business category. You're second in the office new business category. I suppose I'm going to call it an outside chance to win. You're second in both division manager categories, right there. Like, I mean, this is going to come down to the last few days. By the time this podcast comes out, the race is over. Probably the results won't be out yet. And so there's a good chance you'll come in second in all of those three categories. You're going to win the Pilot Development Cup, as we already talked about. But it's not losing at all, Bryan, at all. And I think, like, if I were coaching you, I would certainly want you to reframe that in your own mind. Like, there is no losing happening here. You may not win. You may finish second.
What's funny?
But there's no losing.
What's funny? This has happened. I've come in second during plenty of push competitions and things like that. I kind of like that because it's an opportunity for us to rally the troops, man. When you come this close, when you fight like hell, it's a great way to surge and to get the collective moving in a direction for 2021. So I think that there's only wins here. At the end of the day, we're having an unbelievable year. You're totally right.
Yeah, and what I've found is instructive in any sort of competition. And Vector is so competitive, and the competitive arena here is so hard because we have so many just warriors and champions here. What I found is that you run across the finish line as hard as you can. You run across the finish line as hard as you can, and then it's over. It's over. The race is over. It's usually 3-4 days or sometimes longer before we get the final standing. But it's over. Once you've run across the finish line, you've done everything you can, and you can't control what the other guys do. You can only control what you do. So you run across the finish line. And if you do that, you'll feel good about what happened. The results come out. If you come in first, you celebrate. If you come in second, you call the other guy and say, congratulations, and let's run it back. I'm ready to kick your ass in 2021. And, you shake it off and you go back, you get right back to it.
It.
So
know it, baby.
It should be fun. It should never feel like a losing at all. It should be fun and enjoying the journey and relishing the competition. And if you do that, you're going to come out on top, hopefully as often as you don't. And that's what makes it awesome.
So true.
Yeah. What do you do, Bryan, on like a daily, weekly basis to keep yourself at peak performance? Do you have routines or habits that you feel are important?
Yeah, for me, if my energy is right, my vibes are right, is when I'm operating at my peak performance. So sleep is really important to me. I'm in bed by this pretty much the same time every night. I'm up. My wife hates it, but I literally have an alarm go off at the same time every single day, 365 days a year. Even if I don't have to wake up necessarily, I still have the alarm go off because I like my body to just be in a rhythm of waking up at that time. So I think that's important. Mass is a big one for me. When my wife and I are Catholic, and Mass on Sunday is one of those things that just fuels me, dude. I know that sounds crazy, but that one's big. One of the things I do daily is prayer. And I always have I have space for myself in the morning where I don't ever have to I'm never up and then doing something that's important within 60 minutes or something, I give myself the space I get up, I make a French press coffee, I listen to some music, I'll read a little bit, I'll watch, I'll read an article, I'll read part of a book, or I'll, if I'm feeling inspired, I might journal some things, but I create this space. And for some people it's a morning routine, Dan. Some people it's really meticulous and it's really structured and shit. Mine it isn't as structured, but it is definitely as important for my energy levels. Even if it's just a French press coffee, some some good vibe music, and a chance for me to just kind of look at my calendar, think about my day. That's really, really important for me. And then, Alexandra and I walk. We walk outside probably 4 or 5 days a week, at least mile, 2 miles on the weekends, sometimes more. We have a lot of really awesome walking trails. I love getting in sunshine, getting in God's nature. That's really, really key for me. I realized partway through quarantine, I just kept myself cooped up so fucking long, and just getting outside and seeing some sunshine and taking a walk, that became a game changer for us when we started doing it in, late May, early June. We just, we got cabin fever. We're like, we gotta get outside of this damn house. So that's been big. So some exercise, some movement, some space in the morning, prayer, mass on Sundays. Those are all things that keep me operating at my best.
I love that. Our emotions play a huge role in our long-term well-being and in our success. And if somebody is, rushing to get somewhere, for example, and they're feeling stress, that has an effect on your whole day. It has an effect on a lot of things. I like that you talked about, having that space for yourself in the morning, getting into nature. I think that's important. Taking care of your spirituality, whatever that means to anybody listening. For you, it's mass on Sunday, it's prayer. That's super valuable as well. All of these things make a big difference on someone's overall effectiveness. And it just seems like you've got yourself in a rhythm where you're able to be at your best almost every day, if not every day. And that's way, more than what most people do.
It's the rhythms, dude. That's such a great way to put it.
Yeah. How do you transfer your enthusiasm and your energy to the people who are around you, to your organization and to others that you're with?
It's a great question. I pride myself in being a great storyteller. So I'm always either telling stories of the past or painting a vision of a story for the future. I feel like I'm also really good at enrolling those first followers. Anytime I'm speaking to a group, I'm really good at getting those first couple people vibing with me, because then those couple people in the crowd get the rest of even if it's on Zoom. If I have a couple people who are head nodding me and who are with me, that fuels me even more. And then because of their enthusiasm, it starts to spread to the rest of the it's crazy. You can even see it happen on a Zoom call. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing, man. It's so authentic. It's so genuine. And as funny as it is, you might think these things that when I might be speaking to a group or even one-on-one, that it's all off the top of my head. And I guess it is to a point, but I have said it and done it so many times that it's not it's not really off the top of my head. It's fucking
Mm,
prepared, dude. Like
mhm.
my brain is like running through in the back, like what's about to come out on the front because I've done it so many times. And so, like, for those managers that are new, like you have to prepare because then what eventually happens, because listen, dude, until 2015, every single team meeting I ran, I had notes, I had a shitload of stuff ready, and I had prepared a lot of content. And then after doing it 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 7 years as a district manager, it looks like it's off the top of my head. It's not off the top of my head. I'm not freestyling this shit. I've just done it so many times that I can make it look like that,
Mhm.
you know?
It's
So
internalized for you. It's not off the top of your head. It's inside you. It's like in your heart and your mind. It's in there, and it's a part of who you are. And so it just comes out, right? I love the analogy that, when you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice, meaning put something under pressure, what's inside comes out, right? And on a regular basis, we as leaders are under different forms of pressure to
mm,
say the right thing, to do the right thing, to come up with the right words, the right body language and demeanor and emotion and control ourselves and all these things that we're under pressure to do. And so what's inside of you comes out, and over years and years of repetition, over years and years of preparation and of growth, right? You have become this person who is dynamic and energetic and powerful and charismatic. And so in the moment, it comes out, and it comes out in a way that, as you said, is authentic and genuine because it is who you are.
yep.
I just love observing that about people like you, Bryan. It's amazing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. What's next for you in 2021 and beyond?
Woo! Um, well, I've signed every email since 2018 with first to 10. So, um, literally, since I became a DVM, every damn email that I have sent from my inbox has said first to 10. So, we want to make a run at $10 million in our division this year. And, Dan, I don't know if we're going to get there. I have us projected at somewhere between 8.5 and 9.5. I don't know if we'll crack that 8-figure mark this year, but you know, I want to hit that benchmark, and then I want to blow it. I just want to start melting fucking faces, dude. So that's to me what I tell reps is when you hit dirty 30, life begins at dirty 30. Dirty 30 isn't the starting, it isn't the finish line, it's the starting point, right? Well, 10 million isn't the finish line, it's the starting point. That's when I really want to start to do some things that start to melt faces. I would like to build whether it's within my current division lines or with more opportunity. I want to build a 15 to a $20 million division. I want to have a division that's cranking like a region. Um, who knows? And then beyond there, I mean, I could totally see myself as an RM one day, or you know, uh, you know, working with Cutco in an executive level type role, and later in my life. I've always said I'm going to be a lifer here. I don't know what it is, but I love what I do. I love the company. I love the people. It's and so we got big plans. I would say that the big thing for me is just I want to make sure that these branches go out and crank. I want to make sure that our district managers are operating at a really high level, and whatever the total number ends up being at the end of the year, it is what it is. As long as my branches and my districts and the reps within those organizations are having a really robust experience, and they're fulfilled and having fun doing it, then I think that number at the end of the year is going to end up being really big anyway.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool to hear. Well, I'll tell you, with the recruiting systems that we have, and especially that the Eastern region is on the forefront of driving, there's going to be a potential for continued growth there by scaling the retention systems the way you talked about earlier. Who knows how high our productivity per person could become? And so the possibility of having the 10, the 15, the $20 million division organization, I can see it. And I know you can as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it starts with investing in our current people and helping every single one of them succeed. I've often described that one of my proudest moments in my Vector career was a night where I drove from my home in the Bay Area near San Jose
Yeah.
up to Sacramento for a conference we were going to have the next morning. It was
How far was that?
SC1. It's a 2-hour drive.
Okay.
And it was SC1. And I had 13 offices in my division. I called all 12 of the others, all right, not including my pilot. I called all 12. All 12 managers had just had the best week of their career in the same week.
So
In the
badass.
same week. Yes.
Oh, man.
And it was amazing what we did. We did well over $1.2 million for push 2 weeks in a 13 office division. And it was the start of amazing times, Bryan. And I think about what you have and the chance to have all of your managers experience something like that in 2021, like, and not just you, but every division manager listening to this can experience something like that as we look into 2021. I mean, we are at the start of high times in Cutco and Vector over the next few years.
We're about to go on a ride, brother.
We are, and you're going to be at the front end of it, and it's awesome, to see what you're doing, man. You got anything else you want to share with the audience?
What you appreciate appreciates. It's impossible for anxiety and gratitude. It's impossible for stress and appreciation to coexist. So when you're feeling stressed or anxious, focus on the things that you're appreciative of and grateful for. Have fun, enjoy what you're doing. Life is too short not to. So
Exactly. It's a great last word, Bryan. Thanks so much for rejoining us for the podcast. The Vector world loves you, and it's awesome to hear from you. And I really appreciate you as well.
Appreciate you, Dan. It was a blast.
All right. Bryan Hurlman, everyone. I do not have a whole lot to add to the end of this one because Bryan really did say it all. He is an authentic, he is genuine, he is enthusiastic, he brings energy to every interaction and to everyone around him. He's a big thinker, he is ambitious, and he's willing to work and do what he says he is going to do. What an amazing example for anyone who works with him and for anyone in the Cutco Vector Marketing organization. Please check out episode 65, which is all about Bryan Hurlman's story in the business. You'll get a lot out of that one as well. Bryan also talked about daily rituals or routines. I want to encourage you to please check out episode 156, which is where I get together with Hal Elrod to talk about the miracle morning concept that Hal shares worldwide from his best-selling book and now movie about his concepts and his life. Those are a couple resources I want to share with you. If you like the podcast, please share it with others. Please, if you haven't done this, take 5 seconds, hit the 5 rating on your podcast player. Write a short review, even if it's a few words, a few sentences, if you're so motivated on Apple Podcasts. That does help spread the word about this podcast throughout all of our communities and just helps to show what Vector and Cutco are doing in the world for so many people. So thank you very much for listening to Bryan Hurlman. Happy New Year, everyone. Let's make 2021 the best year of our lives.